Hi, welcome. Okay, so if you are watching this video, I believe you are currently participating in the HackerBoost Web3 Developer Bootcamp 1 Mastery Cohort. And welcome to Mastery Cohort Week 2, where you'll be dealing with data types, arrays, enums, and then functions. So the purpose of this video is just to take you through briefly how to go by your project for this particular week. So let's get to it. All right, so if you are in the class, you already know where to find your weekly materials, right? So we're going to navigate to the classwork. All right, then as we are in the classwork, we're going to be looking because our interest area is the MC week 2 where we are currently. But before you start working on the project, the first thing you need to do is to go to the materials. That will give you the instructions or the learning activities or models you need to undertake before you start working on your project. So let's explore it a bit and see what you are supposed to do, right? All right, so we expand and we open the document. Okay, so this week's focus is on expanding your knowledge of Solidity by integrating advanced concepts such as data types, functions, conditionals, visibility, arrays, structs, and enums. Below is a list of essential resources that will guide you through the learning material for the week and help you complete the project successfully. Alright, so these are the resources you need to undertake. Okay, so 1, Solidity Programming 101 course on HackerBoost. So if you are participating in this bootcamp, you are required to enroll in the HackerBoost course called Solidity Programming 101. All right, and to work on this week's project, you need to learn these particular models. All right, so I see that we only listed model 2.2, 2.3, 2.4. The reason why we listed only this one is because you'll be using these models to answer, but I think you should also study model 2.1, which talks about data types and variables. So you should try to read around 2.1, then read 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4 for this week. All right, so just visit HackerBoost. You can visit HackerBoost, and then once you are there, you log in like I'm doing. Okay, you log in and then you navigate to the particular course, Solidity Programming 101. We are here. All right, okay, and these are the models. So all right, so model 2.1, you will be studying model 2, and then you are required to study model 2.1, data types and variables, 2.2, 2.3, and then 2.4 for these particular project. All right, so when you come, these data types, then functions and control structures, visibility and variable scope. Then last one will be arrays, structs, and enums. These are the lessons you'll be learning under this particular model for this week's project. All right. Okay, now we are done learning. Let's go to the project and see what or how we will go by it. So let's go and open the project. So this is the project for the week. All right, then this is the document. I'll open the document. Now let's look at the instructions. So MC week 2 project, expanding your simple storage with Solidity concepts. All right, so project instructions. This is the project instructions. Part 1, open your development environment. All right, so you access Remix, then continue working in the workspace you have created in the previous week. Edit your simple storage.sol file. All right, so last week you were asked to set up your development environment and also create a file called the simple storage.sol and push your code to GitHub, which you did. All right, so this week what we're going to do is to continue working on the same contract. So you realize that the contract you created last week wasn't completed. You only created a contract, an empty contract, I think with only one variable. But we are now going to work on the contract logic, right? So this week's project will help you to expand the contract logic, and the subsequent weeks coming will also help you to conclude the contract, right? So let's look at what we'll do first. We go to Remix. All right, so let's go to Remix. I'm going to open Remix. All right, so this is my Remix. You all have Remix. You did this in the previous week. So I'm on Remix, and then you created a contract called the simple storage contract, right? So let's say this is my contract. This is my contract. You all know the contract you created. It is called simple storage contract. So this is what you had in the previous week. So favorite number. So you had this in the previous week. It's gonna be a public variable. All right, so now when you open your contract, this is what you will see. So let me name it simple storage. This is what you will see, and then now you are supposed to expand. You are supposed to expand on this particular contract. Okay, so when you open your project, you'll find this contract which you worked in the previous week, the simple storage.sol contract. Okay, now let's look at what we will do per this week requirement. All right, so it says that, let's go back to the document. It says that you will now edit your file. Okay, now implement part 2, implement data types and variables. Add the following variables to your simple storage contract. These variables form the foundation for more complex functionalities implemented in later parts of this project. All right, so here you are supposed to add these variables. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're supposed to add all these 6 variables to your contract. So you already have this contract, U256 public favorite number. You already have this contract, so you don't need to add it again, but you have to make sure that this contract is present in your contract. This particular variable rather is present in your contract. Okay, so since we already have this one, I'll skip it, but we have to add these remaining 5 variables. So you can copy them, or if you want, you type them. Normally if you are learning, I recommend that you type then copy, but because this because I'm doing this as a brief video tutorial, I'll just copy everything. So make sure you copy all the variables, and then you go back to your project, which is here, and then just paste everything. Okay, so I'll say okay, just paste everything. So the alignment is not good at all. I have to format the document to make it look beautiful. So format code, let me see if this will work. Format the code. Okay, prettier has been created in the workspace. Okay, so it has been formatted. There's this particular extension called prettier, this one. So if your code is not well structured or well aligned, when you right click, then you can see this particular place called format a code. When you click on it, it will align your code, make it look beautiful. Okay, so part 2 says we should add these variables to our code, which we have. So now when you look at this public favorite number and all of this, you should make sure that they are present in your contract. So instructions: step 1, open your simple storage contract. We did that. Add the above variables to your contract. We did that. Now compile and deploy the contract to ensure everything is working correctly. Okay, so let's do that and see whether everything is working correctly. So now we have all the variables in the contract. Let's compile and deploy. So I'll go to compile, and then I will say compile. Great. You can see the green check. See, yeah, so that shows that everything is all right. So I can also move to deploy. Let me deploy and see what happened. All right, so deploy. Good. Deployment just happened. So let me expand. Okay, so these are the variables I have currently, and some of them, because some are public variables, you can see that after deployment, we have the default functions created for the public variables, which you can find here. So favorite number, the value is currently 0. So you make sure that your favorite number is 0. I realized that some of you in the previous week initialize this variable to a particular value, so just remove it and leave it this way. It should be your favorite number should not be initialized. You should only declare it, just like how this one is declared, right? Okay, so let me explain something here. We have here uint 256 public favorite number. This is a variable, right? Then we also have uint 256 public variable, public favorite numbers. So this is an array. So this is different. This variable is different from this variable, right? So this is an array, and this is just a single variable to store a value. All right, so this one, you can see the comment. It says dynamic array to store multiple favorite numbers, and this one is just a variable that store a value. So check the difference. Don't let these two variables confuse you, right? Okay, so now we compile and deploy successfully. All right, to make our code clean, let's delete this deployment because this was just for a test. So let's delete it. I'll delete it. All right, now I'll go back to the project and continue. Part 3 says what? Implement Solidity functions, conditionals, and loops. It says that add core functions. All right, so we create a store number and get favorite number functions. It says that store number function should take a uint256 parameter and set it as the favorite number. Now the get favorite number should be a public view function that returns the favorite number value. All right. Okay, then this one says add a function with a conditional statement. Implement an is greater than function to compare favorite number with a given value and return either true or false. use loops, create a sum to favorite number function to sum numbers from 1 to favorite number. All right, so the most important part after reading all of this, it says what? Refer to model 2.2 of the Solidity Programming 101 course for code examples. So this should be taken very serious. So it tells you that you should refer here for code examples, right? So let's go there and see what is there. Let's go and check what is there. Let's go to model 2.2 and see code examples. So we're going to start with add core functions, the store number and get favorite number functions. Okay, so let's go there. 2.2. So this is the model, and then this is model 2.2. all right, so we are here. So before you get here, you have already studied this particular lesson. You should know what a function is. You should know all this. Your interest should not just be going to answer or going to work on the project, but you should learn all of these key concepts, right? You should know what modifiers are. You should know what a function is. You should know what constructors are. All of this you should learn before you implement, right? Loops in Solidity. Learn these lessons before you implement on the project. Okay, but our interest here is to expand the project, right? So let's go. It says what? We should look 2.2 for code examples. So here now let's look at, it says create a store number and get favorite number. Let's start with the store number. So the store number function should take a uint parameter. When you check in the code, when you check in this thing now, you find the store number function. This is the store number function. Yes, so when you go to the simple storage also practical exercise, create a store number function. First, we will create a function to store the favorite number variable. So where is the function? This is the function store number. This and this and this. So we are interested in this particular function, right? So let's go and create it. You can copy, but I don't prefer the copying. I prefer you type it. But I want this video to be short, so I'm going to be copying. I will just copy it, but try to type it yourself so that you can, because the more you type something, it normally reflects in your brains as you do it. So I'll copy because I want this video to be a short one. So this is the function you create in your code, because when you look at here, it says what? It says the store number function should take a uint256 parameter and set it as the favorite number. So let's check whether we are on the right track. So you give a space here and I'll paste it. All right, so function store number, it takes a uint256 parameter. This is the parameter, which is an unsigned integer, right? Public. And then it says that it should set the favorite number to the value of the parameter. So now this is the parameter, a favorite number, and then this is the favorite number variable. So it's a state variable which we are going to modify inside this particular function. So this is the variable uint public favorite number. All right, and then now we have function store number, which takes a parameter favorite number, a uint56, and then it sets favorite number to, it set the parameter value to the variable. So it's just a simple thing, right? Just a simple thing. And then now we are done with this. Let me format. Okay, so we are done with this function. Let's go back to the project. It says what? Also, get favorite number should be a public view function. So after store number, we're going to also create a get favorite number. All right, so let's check something before. Okay, let's just finish that one. To get favorite number, let's go to the Solidity course. We are here. It says add a get favorite number function. Now add a function that returns the current value of favorite number. So this is the function that we are supposed to add. It says favorite number, a public view returns an integer, an unsigned integer, so it returns the value of favorite number. So this function will store a value, so it will store a number to this variable, and then this function will help you to get the value that is stored inside this favorite number variable. So that is how simple it is. So I'll copy this once again, but don't copy. I'll come and paste it. Come and paste it here. So let me format it again. I want my code. I like neat code, right? So I'll keep formatting. Right, so I say function get favorite number, public view return this. So now we are done with the two functions, function store number and then function favorite number. Let's try something. I like doing this. Let's try to work on these functions and see what will happen. So I will come here, I will compile, everything is all right. I'll go to deployment. Okay, everything I'll deploy. Contract deployed. Let's expand it to check something. Okay, so now we have the store number function and we also have the get favorite number function. So currently when I click on get favorite number function, I have 0, right? Now let's try something. Let's use the function that will help us to store a value in the favorite number. So currently favorite number value is 0 because we didn't initialize it with any value, we only declare it, and the default value when you declare is 0. So the current value is 0. Let's use the function store number to see whether we can store a number to the variable. So let me see, I'll just expand it like this. Let me store 34 and then I'll transact. Okay, so that is successful. You can see whenever you do transaction, this is where you check this one. All right, so I just stored 34. Let me try to see whether it is working. Now I'll click on get favorite number to now see whether the value will change. So get favorite number, great. You can see the value is now 34. So what it means is that in the function, the variable was initialized, it was declared with a default value of 0. But now with the help of the store number function, we can manipulate the value of this variable. So I just manipulated the value. The initial was 0, I just stored 34. Let me manipulate it again. Let me store another value. So instead of 34, I will say 2300 and then transact. Okay, so let's check get favorite value. Then we click on it. So previous 34, click. Now we have 2300 stored in it. All right, and then the same thing, because this variable is public, even when I click on the favorite number variable, which is here, I'll still find the same value, 2300. All right, okay, so this means that the contract is on track, right? So let me delete this and then I'll go back to the project and continue. Okay, so still in part 3, we also say add a function with a conditional statement. Implement an is greater than function to compare favorite number with a given value and return either true or false. So please make sure you understand what conditional statement in Solidity is about before you do all of this, because the interesting thing here, or our interest for this project, is for you to learn, right? So I'm only taking you through how you can go by the project. So now let's go back to our project. Now it also says refer to module 2.2 for code example. So let's go and refer. Code example, we are looking for is greater than, this is it, is greater than, let's add a function that checks if the stored number is greater than a specific value using an if else statement. So this is a conditional statement. So this is a function is greater than, it takes a value, an unsigned integer value, which is and then it's a public view, it returns a boolean, right? So if the favorite number, the current favorite number value. So if it is greater than this particular value that will be received in this function, what will happen? If the favorite number is greater than the value that will be received in the function, then it should return true. But if it is not, so that is what we have here, else it should return false. So I believe you already know all of this thing. Our interest is just to work on the project, right? So let's copy. All right, so once again, type it, don't copy. So I will copy, I'll go here, and then I'll add it. So that has been added. Function is greater than. Let me format my code. I want the code to look neat. Okay, so function is greater than, it takes a value, and what it does is that it uses conditionals to compare the value with the favorite number and returns a boolean. So this is done. All right, so let me go back to the project now. Last part, use loops. Okay, use loops. But before I implement this one, I'm going to do a test again. So let me do testing. Let me compile the code, compile code. Everything is all right. Let's deploy again and test. Go to deployment, deploy. Okay, everything is all right. Let me expand and do some testing. Now I have store number, favorite number, what get favorite number is greater than is here. This is the function I just added, is greater than. This is a function. All right, so because it's also a view returns, you can check that it is the button is blue. So you learn all of this as you move forward. All right, so this particular function is greater than, it will receive a value and now compare the value. So let me check the current value of. So remember, we deleted the previous deployment and now this is a new deployment. So what it means is that this is a new contract again. So whenever you create, you delete and deploy again, it means that you are starting with a new contract. So the favorite number that we stored previous, which was 22,300, is no more the same. So when I click here, you can see that we now have 0. There is still 0. This is a new contract again. So we're going to start afresh. So get favorite number 0. So now let's store a value inside this. Let's store a value again. So now I'm going to store, I'll store 3. All right, now if I click on favorite number, I'll see 3. All right, get favorite number, there's a function. Let me click on it again. So I'll now see 3. Now let's test the function we just added, and the function is called is greater than, which also takes a value and do some comparison for us. All right, so let's do something. Let's store a value. The favorite number is 3. Let me store 2. Okay, and then I'll say call. I'll call it. Okay, and what can you see? You can see here true. You can check here as true. So this is just what is happening. Our interest is that it should return a value. It should return a boolean when it receives a value by doing comparison. So whatever you put here, the function will compare and returns a bool, right? So either true or false. So when you check, the current value of favorite number is 3, and then here now I added 2 to the function that is greater than function, and of course, 3 is greater than 2, so it will return true. Let's do something. Let me put 5, and then I will call it again. You can see false. It's now false. The reason is that 2 is not greater than 5. So the conditionals, if favorite number, which is currently 3, is greater than what? The stored number, which is 5, then it should return true, else it should return false. But 5 is greater than favorite number, so definitely it has to return false, which we have here, right? Okay, So this is how it is. So we are on course. Let me delete it. I'm going to delete it again because this is just for trial, so I'll delete it again. And then let's go back to the project. Last, it says we should create a sum to favorite number function to sum numbers from 1 to favorite number. So this function will help us to sum numbers from 1 to favorite number. So depending on the number, the current value of favorite number, if favorite number is say 1000, then whatever we put inside the sum to favorite number, it will start summing. So let's do something and you check something. Whenever you call the sum to favorite number, it should sum all numbers from 1 to the current value of the favorite number. That's what will happen. So let's refer back to model 2.2 for code example again. So here, where is the code example? It says using the loops, finally add a function that sums all numbers from 1 to favorite number. And this is the function. So let's look at what the function does. Let's copy it and send it to Remix, then analyze it. Copy, and then here like this. Let me format the code. All right, so function sum to favorite number, it does not take any parameter. What it does is just the logic inside the function. So here we are using a for loop to do the logic or to do the magic, right? So let's look at this. All right, what happened in the function? First, there is a local variable declared here. A local variable is declared. I hope you know what a local variable is. You should read the model very well. You will understand what local variable is. So now there is a local variable declared in it, and then whenever you call this function, the initial value for local variable is initialized as 0, right? And then we now have this for loop that will sum numbers from 1 to the current value of favorite number. So this is what happened. I is equal to 1, and then if I is less than favorite number, this should happen. Sum should be equal to sum plus I. So I hope you know this. If you don't know this, you have to read more on looping or the for loop. All of this you should try to learn. And then finally it returns a sum, right? So don't get confused. Let me do this when you see something. So sum should be equal to sum plus 1, a sum plus I. So this is what it means here. Alright, so what you should do is that whenever you call this function, this for loop will first initialize I to 1, and then this condition will run. It should check whether I is less than or equal to favorite number. That's the value of favorite number. And if this is true, then the value of sum, which is 0, sum should now be equal to the current value of sum plus the current value of I. And then what will happen is that I will be incremented by 1, and then the condition will run again. So this is how a for loop works. All right, so let's say first I is 1, so we have favorite number, which is like, say we have favorite number as 2, or let's say we have favorite number as 5. All right, so let's say I have favorite number, current favorite number to be 5. So whenever I call this function, what will happen is that I will be initialized to 1. So we have sum, which is 0, it's a local variable, and then I will be initialized to 1. Then a condition will run: is I less than or equal to favorite number, which is 5. Right? So we know that I, which is currently 1, is less than favorite number 5. So move into the loop and then perform this logic. So now sum, which is currently 0, should now be 0 plus 1. So 0 plus I. And then because the current value of I is 1, so it should now be 0 plus 1. So now sum will be 1, right? And then if this logic happens, I will now be increased to 2. So I will increase to 2, and then the condition will run again. Is I still less than the favorite number, which is 5? Yes. I, which is now 2, is still less than 5, right? So go into the loop and do something. Now sum is no more 0 but 1, so it is now going to be 1 plus 2, right? It's now going to be 1 plus 2, and then now we have sum to be 3. Okay, now go back to the looping again, because okay, so I will now be increased to 3. Then we will do a condition again. Is I still less than 5 or favorite number? Yes, I is still less than favorite number, which is 5. Okay, go into the loop and do something. Sum is equal to, all right, so sum is now 3. So 3 plus 3, which is what? 6, right? So this is how a condition works. We are not going to do all of this. It's just an example of how it works. Okay, I hope you know this. Just trying to wet your tank. All right, so let's do something. Let's go back to compile the code, and then let's deploy again and do a test. I'm going to deploy. Now we've added 2 functions. We already test this one. We tested this is greater than. We're going to test the sum to favorite number function as well. So I just deployed. Let's check down to find the function. Sum to favorite number is here. So currently 0 because we haven't stored any number into the favorite number variable. Let's store a number there. So I'm going to store 5. I'm going to store 5. Let me transact it. You know how blockchain function. So transact it. All right, so now if I click on get favorite number, the value of favorite number is now 5. Now let's click on sum to favorite number, and you see the magic that will happen. Sum to favorite number 15. We have a value of 15. So just like I was showing you here, right? So what happened is that it uses this loop to sum all numbers to get to 5. All right, so when you take 1 plus 2, 2 plus 3, stuff like that. So the looping, this function will loop to get you all of this. All right, so we are done with this one too. Let me delete it. And then we'll move to the next because there's no time. We'll move to the next. All right, so let's go back to the project. So we are now in part 4, and let's check what to do here. All right, so part 4 says that add functions with various visibility levels to demonstrate their usage. Okay, so we're starting with public functions, and of course I believe before you get here you already studied the visibilities, the solidity visibilities. You should understand what public visibility, private, internal and external, all these visibilities, you should understand them because they are very key in solidity programming, right? Okay, so let's see what will happen here. First, it says we should change the visibility of the favorite number variable to private, and then the get favorite number function should now be the only function that returns the stored favorite number. All right, so let's go to the project. Let's go to Remix and see what happened. Okay, so currently you can see that favorite number is a public variable, and let's check something. Let's compile and deploy again, then you check something. Deploy. All right, now check something here. Because the favorite number variable is currently declared as a public variable, you can see that we have it also listed here, right? as a function to as a call function. It is listed here because it is a public. Okay, and then we also have the get favorite function, which does or will returns the value of favorite number, and because this one too is public, it is also listed here. But now let's check something. The current requirement in the project says that we should change it from public to favorite number, to private rather. So let's change it to private, and then let's recompile, and then you now see something. Let's recompile, compile. Let's go back and redeploy. Okay, of course, let's delete this one because we just made some changes. Let's delete, and then let's redeploy. Deploy. Now check something. Now you cannot see favorite number. It is no more listed here. Favorite number is not here. This one is the array, remember, so don't get confused. It nearly confused me until I see something here, so don't get confused. When you check here, the favorite number is no more there. It has been removed because we now change it from public to private. Okay, let's do it once again. Let me turn it back to public. Let me delete this one and recompile and redeploy. Compile, redeploy. What can you see? Check. We have favorite number, then this is the variable favorite number. When you click, value is 0, right? Because it is public, let's delete. I'm going to change it to private. I'm going to change it to private, and then I'll compile and redeploy. Okay, now check. It is no more here. It has been removed from the functions listed here. Okay, so the project says what? It says that change the visibility of the favorite number variable to private, and then get favorite number function, which is already inside the project, should now be the only function that returns the stored favorite number. So now let's check something. Here. Let's check something. Now when you see, we cannot find the favorite number variable, and you could realize that previously you could find it here, and when you click on it, it will automatically returns its value. But now we don't have it here. We only have get favorite number. So the get favorite number function should now be the only function that returns the value of favorite number. Let's click on it. Current value is 0. Let's store a value. So I'll store 56. I'll transact 56, and then now if I click on get favorite number, the value is 56. Now only this function returns, the value of this private variable, right? So this is what the project here now, this is what you are supposed to do. Right. So let's move to the next step. It says what? We should create an internal function that returns a simple string, and then we'll also create a call internal function that is a wrapper function that will expose internal functions. So internal functions can only be called within the contract. So when we deploy an internal function on Remix, you'll see that the function or variables that are declared as internal will not be called or will not be exposed in the UI of Remix. So after declaring this internal function, we can now use this call internal function function which will be a public one to call this internal function. So let's check the code example, or the calls for code example. It is here, right? It is here. So we have internal function. This is what we are looking for. Let me copy it. Internal function, copy internal function, then I'll add it. All right, Okay, so let me check the next thing. It says what? That we should also create a call internal function which will now be used to expose this internal function. But before that, I'm going to do something. Before this, I'm going to do something. So internal function, let me delete this one. Let me compile and redeploy. Then you check something. Okay, deploy. Okay. All right. So you can check that I just added this internal function, but still you cannot find it here. The reason is that the UI of Remix cannot expose or call this internal function. That's why you cannot see it listed here, because this is an internal function, right? Yes. So we're now going to the next step. We're now going to create a public function that will call this internal function within it. So that's how internal functions are done. You can only call it within the same contract, but not outside, right? So let's check something. Let's go back here. It says we should create a call internal function. Let's go to the code. We have it here. Call internal function public pure returns. So I'll copy it like this. And then I'll paste it down here. Right after this, I'll paste it there. Okay, so I now have this one called internal function. What it does, let's check. So inside this public function, we can now call this function. So this function is supposed to return just a string. This is an internal function, but because this is an internal, you can check here internal. When we deploy, we could not find it here. So to now call this function, we can create a public view or public pure returns, which will call the function inside it. So that is what is going to happen. Let's check something. Let me delete, compile, and redeploy. Okay, so check something here. We have call internal function. So if I click on call internal function, it will call this function. This function was supposed to be here, but because it is internal, you cannot find it. But we can use this one to expose its value. So now when I call this function, it will automatically return by calling this function. And then if it called this function, the logic inside this function will execute, right? So that's why if I click on call internal function here, what do you see? A string. It says this is an internal function. That is the magic, right? So it returns this one, and because of this one, we are able to access the value or the logic inside this function. So all right, we are done with that step. So let's go back to the project. The last part is this is the external. It says we should create an external function that returns a string, and then test external function, a public function that calls external function using the this keyword. All right, so this should also be very simple, just like the previous. I need these two functions, external function and then test external function. These are the two functions I need. Copy them. Type, don't copy, please. Type, don't copy. All right, so I'll come to the project and then I'll paste it. So I just pasted. Okay, so because these ones are external functions, the UI of Remix should be able to expose them, so we don't need to manipulate like we did for the external. Let's do something. Let me compile and redeploy. Compile and then deploy. Then let's check. Yeah, so we have it the external function. Then we also have the test external function. So if I click, you should be able to see this string. This is an external function. So when I click, oh sorry, I'm supposed to click this one rather. So if I click external function, this is an external function. And if I click on the test external function, it should be able to call this one using the this keyword. So you check something here. Here we did not use the this because this is an enter. We only use this function to return it. Here you cannot return. So if we remove this and just call external function, it is not going to work because you cannot call external function inside the same contract, and that is why you have to use the this. Please refer to the course, you can read more about this. All right, so if I click on test external, I am able to call this external function and get the logic inside it. So we have here, this is an external function. Okay, so back to the project. We are done with part 4. Moving to part 5. Part 5 says what? Add arrays, structs, and enums. Okay, so the same way, create an add favorite number function to store multiple favorite numbers in the favorite numbers array declared in part 2. This function will allow users to dynamically add their favorite numbers during contract execution. Define and use structs. Implement an add person function to store a person's name and favorite number in the people array, which uses the person struct declared in part 2. And then this function organizes data efficiently by grouping related properties. Okay, so implement and use enums. All right, so again, refer to module 2.4 for code examples. Right, so first is add favorite number, right? Add favorite number. We'll go to 2.4. Add favorite number. Okay, so this is the function. We're going to add this function. We already have this variable in the code. When you check in the contract state, the variables in the contract state, you will find this array. All right, so we already have this one. We're going to have this function, which will help us to add multiple favorite numbers. So you could realize that the store number function only stores a number, like just one number inside the variable called favorite number. But with this one, we are storing multiple favorite numbers inside this favorite numbers array. So that's what this one will do. So let's try it. Let's copy this, and then here I'll paste it right after this. I'll paste it here. Okay, then let me check what it says here. It says this function will allow users to dynamically add their favorite numbers during contract execution. Okay, so let's test. Let's see what will happen here. All right, so okay, we have 0 deployment. That's fine. Let's compile and redeploy. We just compile. Let's redeploy and see. Deployed. Okay, now we have add favorite number function. So we will now have this function here. That means we can add as many numbers that we want, but remember, it is a function that takes only one parameter. So you don't come here and be adding more many numbers. You only add one number at a time because it takes only one variable, right? So one parameter, right? So let's add numbers. So I'll add 6 1. Okay, now I'm gonna add say 10. Okay, I'll add 22. Let me add another one. I'll add say 88. Okay, so I just added 4 numbers to the array called favorite numbers array. So now I should be able to see all these 4 numbers. Let me check something. Have here says, where is it? Okay, favorite numbers. Wow. So we have this variable which called the favorite numbers, but one thing about this variable here is that you cannot have it return all the numbers that we stored. This can only return the value at each index. For example, let's say index 0. If I put 0 and then I call it, you see 6. That means the first number I added was 6. Okay, so let me say index 3, the last, is 88. Okay, so now let me just do something to return all the numbers that we stored. I'll just add a simple function here. Say function, I'll call it return function return numbers. Let me call that return numbers, and then it should be a public view returns. Okay, so this will return an array uint 256 array, but I need to introduce memory because here I'll be dealing with so you learn this in the next, I think the next week you will learn why we have this memory. We call data storage, or that you learn that. All right, so I'll just return favorite numbers. I'll just return favorite number, this one. I'll return this one. Okay, so now let me delete, then I'll compile, redeploy. Okay, so I should be able to find this one, return numbers. So I have return numbers here. So let me try it again. Let's store 6. Let's store 6. Then I'll store 9. Then I'll store 33. Then I'll store, say, 90. I'm going to store 5 numbers. Then I'll store 43. Okay. So I stored many numbers inside the favorite numbers array. Alright, so how do I know if the numbers are stored? I'm going to click on the return numbers function, which I just wrote here. So let me click it. Where is it? Return numbers is here. If I click on it, you will see all the numbers are stored inside the array: 6, 9, 33, 90, 43. So these are the numbers I stored inside the array. Okay, now I can return the index value of each of this. So 0, 1, 2. So index 2 should return 33. So if I come here, favorite numbers, and say index 2, call it should return 33. Okay, then index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Index 4 should return 43. Index 4 should return 43. Okay, so that means this is also working. All right, so let me delete it. Okay, so this one is not part of the project, but I just added this for testing purposes. If you want to keep it, you can keep it, or you can also add it just for you to understand more of the work. All right, so here let's check here. What does it say? Define and use the structs. Implement an add person function to store a person's name and favorite number in the people array, which uses the person struct declared in part 2. This function organizes data efficiently by grouping related properties. So before you get to this part, I believe you know what a struct is in Solidity. So struct is like an object, right? So which you can categorize an object. So it's a data structure that you can use to, for example, define a property or define all properties for just one particular object inside it. So that's why here it says we should implement the add person function, and then we have the people array. So you can find that here, or we have the person struct. So a person is a human being, which is an object. So a person has a name, a person can have an age, a person have hands, person have eyes, head, and all of that. So by here we are interested in when you check the person struct, what do we have here? Person struct, where is it? Okay, here we are only interested in the string name and then each person's favorite number. So this person struct can be able to store a person's name and then his corresponding favorite number. And we, per this project, we are supposed to implement a function called add person. So here we can add each person, so we can add multiple people, right? So we can add multiple people, each with their names and then their favorite numbers. So that's what this particular project or this particular part want us to do. And then after everything, we now push everything to the people array. So when you call the people array, just like the previous one, when you call the people array, you should be able to see all the people stored in the array, and each of them will have their names and then their favorite number. So that is how it's going to be. So let's implement it and see. Let's go to the code for the calls for code example. Okay, so this is a struct. We already have this struct inside the contract. Also, we added the person public. We have that one here, person public people. So we have the people array, which is a struct. So we have the people array inside. Okay, and then now we're going to implement this function add person. This is a function, and what does a function? Let's look at what the function does. It takes a person name, and then it takes his favorite number, then it pushes his data inside the people array. Okay, so this is how simple it is. So let's do it and just see what will happen. Let's copy. I'm going to copy, and then here I'll add it. Copy and add it here. Of course, let me format my code to look nice. Okay, all right. So function add person, it takes two parameters, a string name and then a uint favorite number. Okay, so let me try it. Let me deploy, compile, and then deploy again. All right, so let me check something. I should have add a person. So I should add person, and it takes two parameters. It takes the name and then the favorite number. So let me say first person Sahabia, and then my favorite number is say 77. This is my favorite number, Sahabia favorite number. I'll say this. Okay, so transacted. I just added Sahabia to the people array. Let me add another one. So let me say Kweku. I'm going to add Kweku, and then his favorite number is also 33. So I'll transact. Successful. This person is added. Let me add somebody. I'll add Daune. So I'm going to add this person, and then his favorite number is 90. This is his favorite number, so I'll transact. Okay, all right. So we now have these people stored inside the people array. All of these guys are now stored inside the people array, and we have it here. We have the people. So here, if I input indexes, I should be able to see each person added. So say index 0. If I say index 0, then I'll call it. You can see Sahabia, and then the favorite number was 77. Let me put index 1. Index 1 Kweku with the favorite number 33, and I added 3 people into the array. So 0, 1, 2, 3. The last index is 2. Index 2, and then call it Daune with a favorite number of 90. Right? So this is how it is. This one too is working. The add person too is working. Okay. So let's go back to the project. the other part of the project. Let's go and check what it's saying now. It says implement and use enums. Create the following functions to manage the contract state enum. So of course I believe you know what enums, this particular solidity keyword enum, I believe you know what it is. Try to read to understand. So let's implement, activate contract, deactivate, and this. So let's go back to the code. For example, okay, so these are the functions I'll be using. Already I have these variables in the contract state, contract whatever. I have these ones. So I'll be implementing the activate contract, deactivate contract, and its active contract functions rather. Sorry, I'll be adding these functions. So of course you should know why or how each of this function works, right? So remember, I'm only taking you through how to implement this or how to go by this project, but try to understand what each of this function does. Okay, so format the code and then let me declare, let me compile and then redeploy. Okay, so now you can check them. The functions are added. Function activate contract, where is it? Function activate contract, this is it. Function activate contract, let me click on it. So the contract is activated. This is what it does. State, where is state? State is here. State, we have the state. This is a state. And then we have the contract, enum contract. It has two states, active and then inactive. So whenever I click on activate, what it does is that, check here, this is just very simple. It assigned active to the contract state. So it will go into this thing, the enum, and then it will get the active state. So that's what it means. So contract state, and then inside it gets the active, and then this one inside it gets the inactive. So it's active, function is active. So that's this one will check whether it is active or not. So function is active. It's a view return. Okay, here is it. Okay, it's true. So this one returns a boolean. It checks to see whether active or not. Okay, so let me check. Let me do something. Deactivate. Let me deactivate, and then I'll click on it's active again. You can now see it is false. All right. So you should understand what this is very interesting. You should try to understand what we are doing here. Okay, so this is how you implement it. Okay, let's go back to the contract, the last part. Okay, part 6. This is not the last part. Part 6 says, well, compile, test, and push to GitHub. So 1, compile the contract. So after everything, make sure I'm going to delete here. So now I have all the parts of the code that I am supposed to have in the contract per this particular project. I have everything now. So in part 6 it says compile the contract, use the Solidity compiler and remix, and ensure the contract compiles without errors. So here, go to compilation, compile. Of course you can check I do not have any error. If there was error, you will see what will happen. So let me remove this semicolon to introduce error. I'm going to compile again. Compile. PM, there is an error. So let me bring it back. Compile. I don't have an error. Okay. The next one says what? Deploy the contract locally. So just like we've been doing, I'm going to deployment. Make sure you have 0 deployed contracts. Then I'll click on deployed. Now I have a deployed contract. I can expand. So all these things you are seeing are part of the contract. Okay, so that one is successful. Test the functions. So you can test if you want to still test them, but like before you get to this part, you should be able to test your functions, or just like we've been doing from the beginning of this video. You'll be testing to ensure that everything is on point, right? So it says push your code to GitHub. So edit your readme file describing the features implemented, challenges you face, then state your work, commit, and push your code to GitHub. Okay, so if you want, normally what I would recommend is that you can edit your readme inside GitHub. So you can just leave it here. When you get to GitHub, you can edit it there and introduce the markdown features so that you can format your text on readme to look very nice. So let's move to the staging and then committing and pushing to. All right. Okay, so when you get here, of course, make sure that your platform is already connected to your GitHub. So I'm going to stage, I'll say my second commit. I'll commit this. Okay, yeah, I'll sync the changes. So this is what is called the staging. I'll sync the changes. It says please check GitHub token and try again. Error 101 optimize. So I think there is a problem with my GitHub token. That's what it's telling me. It could be because maybe where is this one? Okay, I'm going to grab my GitHub token and then so here you face these challenges, but don't let it discourage you. Normally it happens anytime, especially you keep getting this kind of so that's what I'm talking about. Because Remix is a browser based you see. So as I was having these challenges, check. So as I was having these challenges, it was actually pushing. Okay, yeah, it was actually pushing, but I have to, there's a conflict because I've been using this for tutorial purposes, but the pushing has gone through successfully. You can see it here. These are the functions I added on Remix, but because I've been using this one for tutorial, and then also you can check I made some changes to the file and all of that. So the pushing is done successful, but there is some conflict, some merging conflict I have to work on, and that is why you are seeing all of this, but you will not see this. Okay, so that's how you go by the project. After everything, you just push it. You can see I was facing challenges saying that token and what and what. Meanwhile, my token was correct and everything. So sometimes the browser, and you don't need to refresh to. You can just make sure that everything is on point, and then make sure you stage and sync. Then after that, you just commit and push it, and then you are good to go. Right? So see you in the next video. I hope this helps.